Welcome back to Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker. I'm your host, Scott Tucker. Today we're going to talk about when should you file for Social Security. It's a really complex topic because there are other things that feed into it. It's not just the decision about when you file for Social Security retirement. It has other components that come into play, like your taxes on other retirement savings and things. So you can, if you remember Neapolitan ice cream, I don't know if they still make it, but when I was a kid, they had the strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. There's 3 flavors in one box. The old Social Security retirement letters used to say, well, you can file at 62, or you can file at your full retirement age. Now, most folks watching this video right now, your full retirement age is going to be between 66 and 0 months or 67 and 0 months. I was born in 1973, so my full retirement age is 67 and 0 months. Some other folks, my mom was born in 1947. Her full retirement age was 66 and 0 months. So most folks, though, are in that range, between 66 and 67. So we're going to want to key in on this term called full retirement age. Full retirement age doesn't mean that's when you should fully retire. It's a bit of a misnomer. It's a term made up by the Social Security Administration. So don't think that you need to retire at these ages, or that you shouldn't retire beforehand, or that you ought to file right then for Social Security and not wait till longer. We're going to talk about why it could benefit you to wait on filing for Social Security, which is something people don't want to hear. But a lot of times you could retire early and then put off Social Security. That fits a lot of baby boomers really well, and a lot of upper end Gen X folks too. So we have here, we can file at 62 and 0 months. That's when you first become eligible for Social Security retirement benefit of your own and based on your own earnings record. I should take a moment and say that if you're a surviving spouse, if you're a widow or a widower, you can be eligible for a survivor's benefit at 60 years of age. But right here, I'm just going to talk about your own Social Security retirement benefit based upon your own Social Security wages, your own Social Security wage earning history. So 62 and 0 months is kind of first call. Last call is at 70 and 0 months. So you don't get any benefit to wait past age 70, okay? At age 70, they're going to pay you the most they're ever going to pay you. You might as well go ahead and file then. Something that's interesting, last I looked on, you can get President Trump's tax returns, just like you can get President Biden's tax returns. Last I looked, President Trump still has not filed for Social Security. You can see that on his federal 1040 for President Trump, on line 6A, there are no Social Security benefits listed. So he's never filed, and I believe the time I looked, he was 77. So something interesting about that, if you wait past age 70, so if you're 77, you call up Social Security and say, hey, where's my money? I want you to back pay me to age 70. They don't have to do that. They may back pay you 6 months. They don't have to do that. So if you're 70, hey, guess what? Call them and file, okay? But at 62, it could be a mistake to file so early, even if you're already retired. I want to give you some broad brush strokes here. From 62 to full retirement age, every year that you defer filing for your Social Security retirement benefit, every full year that you defer from 62 to your full retirement age, and your full retirement age may vary based on your year of birth. If you want to figure out when your full retirement age is, down in the description, there's a link there. We can set up a free phone consultation, and we'll walk you through all this, run your numbers, and give you some advice that's particular to you. But every year you defer from 62 to full retirement age, they're going to give you a 6 2/3% higher benefit for waiting an additional year. Plus, there's a cost of living allowance that comes out every year. For January 2024, the benefit increase for cost of living was 3.2%. So you'd actually get the 6 2/3% for waiting, plus you get the cost of living allowance built in. So if you're not already on Social Security, so this was for January 2024, there was a cost of living allowance January 1st for 3.2%. So they actually adjust next year's letter, so the cost of living allowance gets built into the dollar figures that you would see for these ages. Okay, so 6 2/3% per year for deferring, plus the cost of living allowances get built into future letters that you get from Social Security. They get you a new letter every year. If you haven't gone to ssa.gov, that's where you can go to get your Social Security letter. You ought to go there carefully. If you haven't already, carefully set up a login. Don't mess up your login and password. You do not want to get locked out of this thing, otherwise you'd be sitting on the horn with Washington, somebody who works from home nowadays, probably trying to prove you to get your SSA.gov unlocked. But that's where you can get your letters now. They don't mail them out anymore. From full retirement age to age 70, every year you defer, they're going to give you an 8% per year raise for waiting, and plus the cost of living allowances. You're not going to see the cost of living allowances on your Social Security letter for waiting into the future. If you look at your Social Security letter right now, you'll see that they'll offer you so many dollars here. We see a lot of times we're in Chicago, and so we help people all over the country because we're federally licensed. But we see a lot of times where an individual is offered maybe with the higher incomes like we see in Chicago, maybe at 62, $2,000 a month is offered. And then that same person, if they wait till full retirement age, maybe it'll be like $3,000 a month. And then at age 70, it might be like $4,000 per month. And this is per individual. So these are just some rough rule of thumb here. So deferring from 62, getting $2,000, deferring out to full retirement age, you might get $3,000. Deferring from full retirement age out to age 70, you might get $4,000. Okay? You're getting these deferred retirement credits, they call it. The deferred filing credits is what they ought to call it. The cost of living allowances get built into the next year's letters. When you look at your future letters, if you're at 62 and you see the future letters, they don't include the cost of living allowances because they don't know what inflation is going to be in the future. But if you deferred this last year, January 2024, you got a 3.2% cost of living allowance. So if you're between full retirement age and age 70, you just deferred this last year, 8% plus the 3.2. Deferring that 1 year, you just increased your benefit by 11.2% for whenever you do file. One thing to say that's really important, once you do file, there's no more of these deferred credits here. You're not getting them. All you're going to get is the cost of living allowance, which is going to trail true inflation. It's not going to be as much as true inflation. In January 2024, when they came out with this cost of living allowance for 3.2%, the day they announced this, they said, we acknowledge that the CPI, retail inflation, is 3.7%, which is higher than the cost of living allowance. Once you file for Social Security, you're going to have less spending power every month for the rest of your life because of inflation, because the cost of living allowances are not going to keep up with true inflation. Now let's talk about how Social Security can interact with other income that you have. A lot of folks, we'll do this like a timeline. You have your job and your paycheck, then you retire. And what I'm going to say is for a lot of folks, our Social Security check ought to be out here in the future. Maybe it ought to even be at 70 years of age. Maybe you have your job stops, your paycheck stops. So this is really job and paycheck over here. So that's your income here. And whenever you retire is whenever you retire. Let's say you retired when you're 60 years of age, and you're retired from here to here, and for a lot of folks, there ought to be a gap here. So some people can retire at 60 years old because they saved a good amount of money and all that, and then some of those same people ought to put off their Social Security to 70. Not specific advice, your mileage may vary, we'd have to talk about it. In the description, there's a link where you can click and schedule a free phone consultation with us, and we'll walk you through your own numbers and give you specific advice. I just can't give specific advice on a video like this. So let's say the paycheck stops when we're 60, and oftentimes we ought to defer our Social Security till we're 70 because we get from 62 to age 70, we get 6 2/3% per year for deferring increases in our future check. Plus the cost of living allowances are not lost. They'll be built into future letters from Social Security. And then from full retirement age, 66, 67 to age 70, you're getting 8% per year raises for deferring your Social Security check. Plus you're getting the cost of living allowances as well. And if you're going to live into your 80s, oftentimes when we run the numbers, you're going to be way better off, maybe mid-80s, to wait till 70. Now, it's more complicated than that, especially if you have an age difference between spouses and things, but generally, if you're going to live into your mid-80s, 70 is a better way to go. Now, what would give us income between here? So we have our paycheck stop when I'm 60 in this example. Our Social Security, I was saying, we might want to hold off till we're 70 in this example, hypothetical deal here. What do we do for income in between? Well, a couple of things. Most baby boomers and upper-end Gen X folks have a whole bunch of money saved, tax deferred, not tax-free. tax deferred is traditional IRA, 401k, 403b, deferred comp, 457b, thrift savings plan, TSP, SEP, Simple Keo. You've never paid federal income tax on any of this money, and so what you could do is you could take a monthly income out of these tax deferred accounts. You could also perform some Roth conversions, because most folks we see, if you're watching this video about Social Security, you're probably just like most folks we see, where most of your retirement savings is in tax deferred. We usually are seeing people that have 90% of their money in tax deferred, meaning you've never paid federal income tax, maybe at 90% of the money you save for retirement. So in between your paycheck stopping and your Social Security check starting, a lot of times we set up our clients with a monthly direct deposit out of our custodian, going to every month money's going to checking. We're withholding federal income taxes. In Illinois, right now we don't have taxes on retirement income, so we're not withholding that. And also we are federally licensed, so we can help folks in other states, and we have clients in other states. This tax deferred money, if 90% of your money is tax deferred, let's send you some taxable money out of the IRA. And then with the rest of this, not specific advice, but let's do some Roth conversions. Over a number of years, let's do some Roth conversions, pay federal income tax, pay the state of Illinois nothing under current law, and if you're in Wisconsin, it's different. And we have clients in Wisconsin, Michigan, and that, different in other states. But let's use the tax-deferred money for monthly income, and let's perform some Roth conversions. So now when we get over here, now we have everything Roth converted. We have no more tax-deferred money. Now we get a bigger Social Security check, and like I said, sometimes we're seeing $4,000 a month for some folks. So you get a $4,000 a month Social Security check at age 70, and then you've got monthly income coming to you from Roth. Now you pay no federal income tax the rest of your life. If these are your only two income sources, if all your income is coming from Social Security and Roth, now you have achieved a tax-free retirement. Okay? Now other things can be taxable, it could mess that up. Maybe a spouse has a pension. If there's a monthly pension, that's federally taxable. Now if a spouse or a friend of yours or anybody you know is offered a lump sum pension, we want to talk to them, because a lump sum pension, we could potentially set that up into a Roth. A lump sum pension could go to a traditional IRA, then we could do the Roth conversions, and then we end up with what's left is a tax-free bucket of money in the Roth, and then we could set up monthly income off that. But what we'd really like to do is to get clients to go from being taxed like crazy while they're working, doing some tax planning in between the working and the Social Security check, and then get you to the zero tax bracket. So we want to get to zero taxes. So if we go into retirement and all our income comes from Roth, no matter how big the Roth is, and the Social Security, no matter how big Social Security is, we pay no federal tax the rest of our lives. Roth income, there's not even a spot for it on the 1040. Social Security goes on line 6A of your 1040, but if you don't have other taxable income on your 1040, on 6B of your 1040, it'll say zero taxable Social Security, so we can get to zero federal income taxes. And isn't that where you ought to be when you're retired? When you don't do the tax planning, you file for Social Security incorrectly, and only 4% of Americans file for Social Security correctly. There's a study published by Forbes that points that out. The average household in America leaves $111,000 in unclaimed Social Security money on the table by filing incorrectly. We don't want that to happen to you. So if you'd like to talk to us about this, we can run your numbers and see exactly what ought to happen. You go down in the description, and you can see that there's a phone appointment link there. We set time on the telephone together. So let me show you an example before we wrap up the video. Let me show you an example of something we see fairly commonly. A lot of times, we used to have, I've talked before in another video about June and Ward Cleaver. Ward left the house, he had a big Social Security earnings check, and then June gets one half the size of his check because she stayed home with Wally and the Beeve and Eddie Haskell. So he had the earned income, the Social Security wages, so he gets a big check, she gets a small check. What we're seeing a lot of nowadays, things are different, and maybe both parents went to work, if it's a married couple, or they have very similar earnings, this sort of thing. So, and we also help same-sex couples too, so things are different than they used to be. What we have happen quite often is we might see that each person at age 70 might be able to get $4,000 a month. You can actually get more than that. But we see quite often that at 70, Social Security says, well, this person will get $4,000 a month. we oftentimes see that their spouse had similar earnings. So 2 spouses in a couple last time I checked. So there's $8,000 a month right there. And then 12 months in a year, there's $96,000 a year that some of our couples can get at age 70. So then you have to ask yourself, at age 70, if we're age 70 and as a couple we can get $96,000 a year from Social Security retirement, I want you to ask yourself, do you want to get that free from federal income tax, or would you like the IRS to tax 85% of that while you're retired? This is how important tax planning can be in retirement, and that's one of the other issues that can affect our Social Security. So you want to get this $96,000 a year tax-free, or do you want to have federal income taxes on 85% of that? So on your federal 1040, if you're married filing jointly, when you get to this point where you're 70 years old, and if you're as a couple getting $96,000 a year, this number goes on line 6A of your federal 1040. That's just where you're saying this is how much I got from Social Security. It doesn't mean it's taxable. It doesn't have to be taxable. So if your other income, let's say, came from Roth, then on line 6B of the federal 1040, if the taxable amount of Social Security could be 0. Okay? And a lot of folks say, how could I live on my Roth? You can actually, this is not specific advice, don't run out and try this without talking to us, don't do it willy-nilly. You can actually Roth convert all of your traditional to, all your traditional can be converted to Roth all in one fell swoop. I don't recommend that. I would do it over a more structured plan, maybe over a 5-year period, and there's a lot of pitfalls that we have to talk about. If you know, everybody knows the name Elon Musk. He's one of the founders of PayPal, right? People forget that. One of the other founders of PayPal was Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel has a Roth of $5 billion, a $5 billion tax-free account. He did a fancy thing way back when. He put $2,000 worth of PayPal stock in a Roth 401k, and he grew it, and then it got really large, and he Roth converted it. Actually, it was already in Roth. He put $2,000 of PayPal stock in his Roth. It grew like crazy. And then and it's in Roth, so now if he wants to diversify it, he can buy, sell, do whatever. But he now has a $5 billion Roth, a tax-free account. So say Peter Thiel goes, let's say that he were to get $4,000 a month in Social Security at age 70, 12 months in a year. Say he gets $48,000 a year from Social Security. And then, so that's Social Security. And let's say he has a $5 billion Roth, and he could get $1 billion out in 1 year, and he would pay 0 federal income tax on his $48,000 Social Security. So there's a lot there, a lot to talk about. Go ahead down in the description. There is a link. You can schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation with us, and we'll walk you through all the ins and outs and give you specific advice about your Social Security. So this has been Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker. I'm your host, Scott Tucker, and I look forward to talking to you on the next video.